Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today I want to discuss a spec I feel I might have been dooming on a little bit too hard, and that is the Protection Paladin in Dragonflight. Before we do get started though, please do like, comment, subscribe. I'm flabbergasted by all of the support. Thank you so much everybody. We are just barreling to 4K subs. Thank you again. There is a Twitch link down below if you wish to watch me stream. Current goal for Halloween is a Charmander onesie stream. If you want to see this big bearded fella in a Charmander onesie, get in that stream down there and show some support. Cannot do this without the support of my patrons. Thank you so much, all of my patrons, for all of your support. There's a link down there if you wish to support me directly as well, and a Discord link if you want to be filled by absolutely wonderful people and discuss Protection Paladin, what you hear here today, or anything else. If you have any questions about any of the other tanks, check that out. All right, so Protection Paladin. Why was I dooming on it a little bit too hard? Number one is the holy power generation from Avenger's Wrath has been removed. That was a big thing that was like, whew, that's a hit. That is a hit. And when the tree was coming out, it seemed like they were going in a direction that felt opposite towards what Protection Paladins wanted, right? What we wanted out of the spec and things like that. It was the spec tree was a little messy, the class tree was a little messy, and when you're taking something away, it always feels bad. And I'm not going to lie, going into these dungeons that I ran on, now this is just heroic difficulty, mind you, because Mythic Plus isn't out yet on Dragonflight. Quick disclaimer, anything can change here. They could totally just revamp everything, and everything I say here is completely useless, because this is, still beta Dragonflight, and things are still constantly evolving. So, disclaimer. But going into those heroic dungeons, when I'm doing the muscle memory of, okay, I have 2 holy power, I hit Avenging Wrath, I can hit Shield of the Righteous, that's locked in brain now, right? That's locked in brain, that's locked in button fingers. Like, it's automatic. I don't think about it, it just happens. So the amount of time that I would hit Divine Toll and immediately try and spam Shield of the Righteous, and nothing happened, because I only had 1 holy power when I did it, was like, okay, and that felt a little jarring, I'll have to admit, but in all honesty, once you kind of got past that, it stopped feeling really bad. But then as I was playing with the tree, now up above, I'll link the class and the spec tree build that I did and settled on that I really liked. Is this going to be the final thing? Absolutely not. There's going to be min-maxing. This is just what I settled on for kind of testing things out and liking it. Do not feel like this is going to be the absolute play, because it's just an amateur theory crafter here that's just trying to have some fun. So second quick disclaimer there. But as I was playing with the tree itself, or the trees, I realized that Protection Warrior and Protection Paladin actually have a lot in common, just inverted. Hear me out. Now, where Protection Warrior, you have your defensives, and they're pretty well set with what you get, and you have a couple of ways to customize those defensives. The real joy in the class and spec tree for Warrior is that you get to really customize your damage profile, and that is insanely fun. Protection Paladin is inverted. It lets you customize your defensive profile while kind of being locked in and set into certain talents that you kind of pretty much need for Mythic Plus or anything. I am going to be speaking mostly as a Mythic Plus, kind of that's the content I prefer. I do raid, but I obviously I do way more Mythic Plus. So, with that sort of thing in mind, I was like, okay, I can have access to Bop, Spell Warding, 1 minute sack, Consecrate healing, Hand of the Protector healing, Judgment of Light, and you can have like all 3 of those going at once if you want. And you have a number of defensives and a number of new defensives. So Ardent Defender, Final Taunt, Bubble, and Guardian of Ancient Kings are making a comeback, but we're also getting a new ability called Sentinel, which does replace the Avenging Wrath damage component of it. Like, you're not getting the extra critical strike chance, but you're getting a 30% degrading damage reduction after 5 seconds, and then each 3 holy spire you spend does extend the stack by 1 second. So it just brings things down. It's a 30% DR, but it also increases your health by the same amount. So this is actually pretty huge for Paladin, and because this replaces Avenging Wrath, any talents that you get that reduce the CDR of Avenging Wrath, aka Righteous Protector, affect this as well. And that actually does feel really good. But not only that, we're getting Eye of Tyr. Now, this is something that is coming back, if I'm not mistaken. I think this was in Legion. Not 100% sure. I did not play in Legion, so correct me if I'm wrong on that. But from what I've heard, this is actually a talent coming back and not a new talent being put in. But what it does is it releases a blinding flash from your shield. It causes attack power, which I actually did notice, attack power damage, holy damage. I did notice that it was kind of lackluster on the meters, but it is a 25% DR for 9 seconds. One of the things that Protection Paladin has been very much lacking in Shadowlands has been a number of defensives. So with the way that this tree is designed, because like their defenses were really good, like Guardian of Ancient Kings, Bubble Taunt, and Ardent Defender are all really good defensives. The problem is once they ran out, you just had Shield of the Righteous and try and live. Like you didn't have... Like, you really had to time those defenses well. So this tree design seems to allow you to customize the defensibility and the utility of your Prot Paladin spec. Which, in all honesty, if you look at Protection Warrior versus Protection Paladin, where you're like, okay, I get to customize my damage profile, really fun. Paladin, I get to customize my defensive profile. I know which one I'm getting a boner for. You know what I mean? But that's not to say that the way that Protection Paladin design is not good. It's actually really interesting when you start getting into the deep and little nitty-gritty of things, right? Do you want Avenging Wrath to Avenger's Wrath? Do you want Avenger's Shield to give you more block chance? There's one where it gives you a damage reduction component on enemies that it hits. You can actually get a really, really big absorb for it. You're customizing your defensive value as a Prot Paladin versus customizing your offensive profile, which feels weird, but when you start actually digging into the tree, feels really good. And that is a good thing, right? Because being able to tank, your number one job is to survive. Survive, hold threat, and survive. Number one job. Do those things. After that, you can worry about how much damage you're doing. Now, how much damage you're doing is also tied into how much threat you're generating, of course. But at the same time, as long as you're not losing threat, you're doing your main number one goal, right? Because your whole thing is just live. Make sure nobody else is getting attacked, and attack. That's the goal. And this gives you a lot of tools to be able to live. You're going to now have 4 defensives without bubble. Just without bubble, you're going to have 4 good defensives. Ardent Defender, Eye of Tyr, Sentinel, and Guardian of Ancient Kings. A 5th if you want to opt into Bubble Taunt for a full 8-second immunity. That is really, really good. And then you go into the utility side of things with how much you can customize on the class tree, right? You can go into a 3-minute bop while also, from the spec tree, having Blessing of Spell Warding in the same dungeon. Because there's so many times where I was asked while running my Protection Paladin, hey, can you run Spell Warding for this one thing? I'm like, no, I need to run this talent, so I can't run Spell Warding for you. I'm sorry. I have Bop, but I guess it's useless in this scenario, but I can bop you on this and this in this scenario. Now, I know that they share a cooldown, so if you hit one, the other goes on cooldown, but just the fact that you can actually bring both to a dungeon and utilize both throughout the dungeon is going to feel really, really good, and I think is going to help cement Protection Paladin's S-tier pug tank rating, right? You're also going to be able to get a 1-minute Blessing of Sacrifice, which, I mean, that is the amount of times that I've hit this to help save a healer or DPS standing in bad that I knew things were going to go wrong. Having this down to a 1-minute cooldown is going to feel really, really good if you like helping out your party members and things like that, right? Paladin, I guess, should feel like it's a tank of the people, right? You're there to help, and you're there to really do a lot of things versus, you know, you're not a selfless tank. Then you have things like Judgment of Light, Golden Path, which now heals you and 5 allies. So if you are a melee stack in a dungeon, right, it's you and 3 other melees and even a maybe melee healer. Golden Path is going to hit everyone and is going to heal you all, which actually does add up. And then there's a talent below where you can get Seal of Mercy. Golden Path strikes the lowest health ally for an additional 50% of its effect. It's small, but it's small stuff that adds up, right? How many times have I heard someone say, man, I got dropped down to like 5 HP, I should be dead there. And then that little bit of healing may have, may have stopped another hit from having them die. But you can get Golden Path, Judgment of Light, and Hand of the Protector really, really easily, which feels really good. You're going to have a wonderful kick profile with Divine Toll. Now, I opted for Quickened Invocations, which reduces the cooldown of Divine Toll by 15 seconds. To me, this felt better than a 1-minute Divine Toll with Divine Resonance, but we're going to have to see what the kick profiles of certain dungeons are like. I think the Quickened Evocations capstone is going to be the general play, where Divine Resonance is going to be the niche play when it's absolutely needed that you have to have this kick here, this kick here, this kick here. You could just kind of automatically do it by making sure you're targeting the right thing at the right time. But Divine Toll, you thought it was Nuki in Shadowlands? This thing's become an absolute bomb in Dragonflight with Tears Enforcer. Your Avenger shield is imbued with Holy Fire, causing it to deal a bunch of attack power holy damage to all enemies within 5 yards of each target hit. This thing hits like a truck. And if you set it up right, because it's only a 5-yard range, but if you can bring everything into a close point and then hit Divine Toll, you are going to just skyrocket in burst damage. Which is going to feel bad with some pugs that like to burst really quickly and kind of spread things around, but you are going to be able to just nuke the battlefield. And I was doing it in the heroic versions of these dungeons, and I was having an absolute blast doing it. So for those reasons, I feel Quickened Invocations is actually going to be the better play here. But, time will, of course, tell. One of the things on the tree that I actually have to say does feel kind of bad is the placement of Crusader's Judgment. Judgment now has 2 charges, and Grand Crusader now grants a charge of Judgment. Now that Holy Power no longer generates from Avenger's Shield, this is basically an absolute must-take talent at all times, and getting to it can feel pretty bad because your only 2 means you're getting there are Strength of Conviction, while in your Consecrate, your Shield of the Righteous and Word of Glory have 10% increased damage and healing, which is really, really good, but there's a lot of different things that you want to take here, right? So you're going to have to be sacrificing some stuff, or Hand of the Protector. So there's definitely some things here that where its placement, I would like to see this a little bit up, because you'd have to kind of go through either Light of the Titans, or Strength, or the talent node on the far right side. So I would like to see this being a little bit more up, and it'll have a little bit more easy accessibility. In fact, if you could choose the Sentinel Avenging Wrath and just put down a node down there to kind of pick it, that I think would be really good, because having the 2 charges of Judgment with Blessed Hammer really makes the Holy Power flow feel a lot better, and without that second charge of Judgment, it doesn't feel as good and feels a little bit clunky. But alas, that's kind of where we are. The talents that you're taking to get to it don't feel bad, but you kind of already feel strapped for points as is, right? There's a lot of things that you want to get, but that you can't get, so you really need to pick and choose and customize your defensive capabilities and play around them, which is definitely a strength of the spec. Not as exciting, but an absolute strength of the spec, and I think Paladin is going to be an absolute sleeper in Mythic Plus. I really, really do, with what it brings to the table, because it's just bringing more. You have easy access to Blinding Light and Fist of Justice, which before were always a talent choice that you could not get both. Now you're going to be able to get more Hodges out, group kicks, 45-second group kick with Divine Toll, crazy amount of off healing, bot protection, all of this fun stuff is coming back, and a customizable defensive profile. This is why I think Prot Paladin is going to be a much sleeper spec than I think people are kind of sleeping on it a little bit. I'm not a big fan of the Dust Till Dawn playstyle. I've never liked it. I didn't like the Legendary or the Torghast power in Shadowlands. I thought it's not for me. I understand some people are going to love it, and there is enough Dust Till Dawn builds that you can absolutely play through and have a blast with if that's so for you. The 2 capstones I chose were Sanctified Wrath and Zealot's Paragon. And honestly, I didn't feel strapped for damage. I don't think there's a dungeon where with the build that I was running, I dealt less damage overall than my Blood Death Knight. So Really, really good things to see there. I think people are sleeping on Paladin, and I think I slept on it too. What do you guys think about prop Paladin? I know that the class tree needs a little bit of work. I know it's not fully realized yet, but I think it's a lot better than people give it credit for. Have yourself a good one, guys. Thank you for listening. Have yourselves a good day. Bye.